first noticed it last October. I remember it well. It was a Wednesday, and I had gone to the supermarket to buy toilet paper and a set of forks. I was on my way home when I saw it. I thought it was odd. A red table, just sitting there in the middle of the sidewalk. Everybody seemed to be ignoring it, so I did the same and just kept on walking. I was on my street when I saw it again. At first, my brain didn't register it, but it made me do a double take. There it was, a red table. It never crossed my mind that maybe it might be the same table I saw a few blocks before. I went into the convenience store to buy some beer, and I asked the clerk about the table outside. He said he didn't know anything about it. I thanked him and made my way home. I told myself that it must be a new type of table that's very popular, or part of a marketing campaign or something. A couple of weeks later, I was sitting and waiting for the tea. I had just been to the bank. The wait had been 40 minutes longer than usual, and the bank teller who saw me had been very slow and a little rude. Needless to say, I was kind of annoyed. I was zoning out listening to music when I noticed it. Across the street, the table. I laughed. I couldn't believe it. I didn't believe it, actually, until I crossed the street to get close and confirmed that it was, in fact, the same red table I had seen before. The tea arrived before I could gather my thoughts, and I ran to catch it. While I was on it, I thought of the table and the funny coincidences of life. I got off at my stop, and I noticed that my left shoelace was untied. If I hadn't stopped to tie it, I might not have seen it. But there it was, on the tracks. At that moment, I felt a sort of distress. The sort that comes when something you can't explain happens. How had the train entered and left the stop without running over the table? Had someone put it there in the few seconds that had passed since I got off? I quickly looked around me, trying to find anything suspicious. I probably looked crazy. I decided to put as much distance between myself and the table as I could. I was tired and anxious, but I didn't want to go home. I ended up walking in the park for a while. I laid down on the grass. It was cold, but I was exhausted. I felt my brain shutting itself off, and I started to doze. I dreamt about the red table. In my dream, I was the table. I was standing by a river. I was so afraid of falling into the water, but I couldn't move. I was just a table. When I woke up, it was dark. I walked back home, and I thought about the red table for the rest of the day. A few months passed, and I had pretty much forgotten about the red table. Whenever I did think about it, it felt like just a weird dream. Like something that didn't really happen. Then, when I went to visit my parents, I saw it in their kitchen. I freaked out a little. My mom asked me what was wrong. I was gonna explain everything when I noticed that it wasn't actually the red table. It was the same one that had been there ever since I was a baby. I felt very silly. A few days later, I was walking over to my friend's house and I saw it. I just ran. Ran for a few blocks, and the table followed me. Wherever I turned a corner, there it was. Whenever I looked behind me, there it was. So I kept running. I don't know how long I ran for, but I stopped when I was sure that it wasn't following me. Even though I wasn't sure. I was far away from home. I took the tea back and called my friend to tell her that something had come up. I decided not to leave my place. I figured that if I stayed home for a while, the table might forget about me or get bored and stop following me. I bought food and groceries for a couple of weeks and stayed in. During this time, I thought about a lot of things. I thought about all the things I regretted doing and all the things I regretted not doing. I thought about how I could go about changing the things that I didn't particularly like about my life. I read a couple of books and I drank a couple of beers. I was constantly looking out the window to see if the table was there. Sometimes I thought I saw it, but it always turned out to be a car or a person or just the sunlight reflecting on the pavement in a weird way. After a few days, I decided to go outside. I figured I couldn't go on like this for that much longer without going crazy or getting a vitamin D deficiency. I also hadn't seen the table for a while, and I missed going places, so I left. Another 4 months or so passed till I saw the table again. It was in the same place where I'd first seen it. I thought about it less and less as the weeks had gone by. When I saw it there, in the middle of the sidewalk, I was surprised by the fact that I wasn't afraid. I wasn't nervous either. It felt like running into an old classmate. I walked up to it, and I touched it. It wasn't ugly. It was honestly kind of cozy, and I needed a new table in my kitchen anyway. So I thought I might as well.